Wake up, wake up. It's a Friday. That's right. Friday in June, OTAs in the rear view, NBA Finals, amazing game one. Damon took his kid to a Giants game and didn't spend a penny. What? Let's go.
Two corn dogs, a water, a beer, and some French fries. You're north of $50. I mean, just like that. But we'll get into all that a little bit later. Welcome to Wake Up. It's great to have everybody back. Hit like and subscribe across both channels, if you will. We are on Damon Bruce Plus. We are on The Krug Show. One of us is brought to you by Pigs and Pickles. The other brought to you by Ike Sandwiches in the Dubliner, West Portal. It is great to have everyone back here, and it's been an interesting week of OTAs. Larry, let's get all promotions and sponsor business right out of the way and hop right into it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, the Krug Show always brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. So from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m., go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue down in Pacific Grove. My friend Anthony Catania is at 831-521-5264. And he's also a great follow on Instagram at Sharp Corners 831. On Instagram. We're also brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. If you go to Mancini's, make sure you use the code KRUG10 at checkout, and you'll save an additional 10%, just simply because you know me. And also thanks to LearnKey Upscale Academy and our good friends at Clawdaddy Arcades, and the links are in the description for for all of our sponsors. And thanks to all of our sponsors for sponsoring the Krug Show.
Absolutely. Thanks to everyone for just supporting what we're doing by just hitting like and subscribe. You do that early on today's show, the algorithm will show us favor. So we will never waste your time. We will never drag you through 4 hours of a show that doesn't really even need to be there. It was kind of a very light news week for the 49ers, which, given the fact you're in OTAs, isn't a bad thing, Larry. You want calm, you want steady, you want good feelings. You don't want any, oh, this guy pulled up lame, this guy got hurt, this guy twisted his whatever, which is where you find an awful lot of OTA headlines coming from. A quiet week for the 49ers is a good week for the 49ers at this point in the year, don't you think?
No question. I mean, you don't want to make a lot of news in OTAs, and they didn't. I thought it was they got their work done. I'll say this. I mean, there were people, Tim Kawakami and others, who stated boldly in March that this year was going to be a throwaway year for the Niners, simply because they didn't have the talent that the top contenders in the NFC have. Well, they're the third betting choice in the NFC. They have added an awful lot of talent, not super blue chip talent, but they added Bryce Huff this week. They had a deep draft. They added some pieces in free agency they liked. And I would say they may not be the favorite, but they are absolutely in the race in the NFC this year. It's not like, you look at this team and go, you know what? It's a shame. They're a shadow of what they used to be. They'll be lucky if they finish, with 8 or 9 wins. No, this team's a virtual lock to win double digits. I would say if things break right, they could easily win 12 or 13. If you told me the Niners won the division and were the number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs, I would not be totally shocked this year. So I think it's on. I think they're in it. I don't know if they're, if this is a vintage team. Only time will tell. A lot has to happen in training camp. There's a lot of rookies. There's a lot of new faces. But there was enough positive on the football field, and we can go through it. I mean, true hurdles and questions that have been given positive answers already. And so I came into this offseason with 5 or 6 really big questions, and I would say I got 4 or 5 of them answered already, Damon. I feel pretty good about where they're at.
Let's start with the biggest one. What was your number 1 concern, and what's the first thing that you're happy to feel like, oh, okay, I feel better about? I'll tell you right now, every single time, and I was talking about this earlier this week, I had Steph Sanchez on the show.
How was it?
It was great. She's fantastic. And, One of the things that we were just talking about is if you don't like something at 2:00 in the afternoon, come on back about 7:00 at night and look at it again. Everything gets better the longer you look at it. The Huff trade gets better the longer you look at it. You and I talked about, is it going to be a third? Is it going to be a fourth? Is it going to be a fifth? Well, it's going to be a fifth or a fourth. That is really good. You get the third out of it. Mwah. I like that even more. Nick Martin, I thought, was the single biggest reach in the draft for the 49ers. Everything that we've talked about is this guy is, forget about a reach. We might talk about him being the steal of the draft when it's all said and done. Let's let it all happen first. But I love the early returns and the positive headlines attached to a player that I was worried about. Again, Michael Williams might not have been that edge rusher to get the quarterback on third down. Well, now Bryce Huff makes that draft pick, I think, look and sound a little bit better. And then it comes back to oh my goodness, you got such a level of business being done around Brock Purdy. It's going to prevent you from doing further business. They are the second most cap space in football, so nothing could be further from the truth. They're going to roll that over into next year. Their financials aren't nearly as perilous as people were wringing their hands about just a little while ago. And Brock is talking about how leaving things on the tables for others makes better football, makes a happier football room. I mean, it's the opposite of the bad vibe summer, Larry. It really is.
Well, I mean, and there's been several. If you said what's the biggest negative, and I would say the biggest negative was the special teams. I mean, the special teams, you can't do worse than 32nd. You fired your coordinator. You dumped your punter. You got rid of your long snapper. You brought in a challenger to your kicker. And you brought in all kinds of new faces that are probably going to appear on special teams. And you're changing, just from being at the practice, I would say you're changing the way you're practicing special teams too. Don't ask me what exactly the changes are, but it looks a whole lot different. So all I would say is they're improved. They're improved dramatically on special teams. They're improved. They were terrible against the run. I think they did a lot up front to defend the run. I think they were really, really bad as far as creating separation wide receiver-wise down the field. And you've added now Cowing and Guerrero in year 2, and you've got Watkins in year 1. You've got Nair. You've got some real speed that separates. And then I think, believe it or not, I think they've improved their offensive line. I know a lot of people would be shocked by that because I think that, there's – Damon, you and I do this for a living, and we do this every day, right? So we're talking Niners every day. It's pretty easy to see that the common rip for the 49ers coming into this year is they ignored their offensive line, and, it's going to burn them. Well, the more after OTAs, I'll say this, the cupboard is not bare on the offensive line. Dieter and I did a long stream last night where we both agreed that depth along the offensive line looks outstanding. Really, really good.
I mean, outstanding might be just a step too far down.
Well, no, the depth is outstanding, Damon. The depth is outstanding. They still have you can argue about the quality of a Colton McKivitz, the quality of a Ben Barch, the quality of a Jake Brendel in the starting unit, right? But when you get to the backups, they do, most teams keep 4 or 5 backups. They're going to have some really good backups. One of the things that came out of OTAs, because we had a chance to watch them on the field, then we had the next day had a chance, or a couple days later, we had a chance to go talk to the coaches. So I actually got a rare opportunity to watch practice, observe things, and then a couple days later, ask the coaches about what I saw. And it's very, very powerful when you can do that, right? So I had a chance to go sit down and talk to Chris Furster, the offensive line coach. And my first thought to him was, oh, my God, Chris, Austin Pleasance looks amazing. Because, Damon, Austin Pleasance looks amazing. I mean,
but is he out there? Is he shadow boxing? I mean, are they doing
anything? No. They're doing the regular. They're doing what they do in practice for the Niners are just holding practices. The practices that they have, like, you're never getting to the live 11-on-11 in the OTAs. You're never getting there. But the rest of the practice is exactly a carbon copy of what they do in what they call individual. So they do one-on-ones, and they do their drills. And it's it's live reps, but no real hitting. I mean, it's offensive linemen on other offensive linemen, right? They're blocking each other,
right?
But I'm telling you, man, I watch this for a living. You know me, I would not BS you. Austin Pleasance, when they signed him last year, never heard of him. Interviewed him the first day. Nice guy, decent enough guy. He told me he's a self-proclaimed nerd. He's a Star Wars fan. He's got a Chewbacca mask and a Princess Leia hat and all this crap, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of a nerd. And I'm, at the end of the interview, I kind of felt like saying, minus the kinda, dude, you're a major nerd. But whatever. This guy shows up this summer. Damon, he's put on 5 to 7 pounds of muscle. He looks like a house. Damon, he's 6'7", he's 330 pounds. He was working out next to Trent Williams. If I told you there's 2 guys working out right there, one of those guys is a street free agent that has been on 7 different teams. And the other guy is the best offensive lineman of his generation, and he's going to Canton. You would have the damnedest time telling me which was which. That's how good Austin Pleasance has looked. He is moving. And when I said to Forster, I said, man, this guy looks amazing. He's like, can you believe how well he's moving? And I'm like, no, I really can't. I mean, this guy is the biggest lineman they have, and he's moving incredibly fast. So he looks amazing. Now, he obviously got in shape. He's obviously, he's just, I don't know. Damon, I don't know.
Here's the thing. You know what it is? Some guys
motivated.
Some guys look at off-season opportunities and they take themselves and they put themselves in the gym and they rework everything. And if you are a young Niner,
there's one other aspect of this, and it applies to you.
But here's the thing.
He has kids. He has young kids. And I think he might have coasted, and now he's got a purpose. He even said it. He's like, when I did the interview with him, he's like, yeah, man, when you have kids, it really does add everything that you're doing at work is to provide for your kids.
Yeah.
And he's like, it really hit home with him. Dude, he took this offseason, and I haven't interviewed him yet, but I will this summer. And I don't know what he did, but he freaking worked. And one of the things that's really clear is that Forster is coaching 2 guys really hard, Austin Pleasance and Connor Colby. He is just in the ear of Connor Colby. Dieter and I were laughing about it last night. He's like, dude, I thought maybe Connor Colby stole Chris's wallet or something. He was just like, everybody's doing a drill, and he's like, good. And then he gets to Colby, and he's like, rah, rah, rah. And then he's on to the next guy, good. And then, gets to Austin Pleasance, what the fuck? And when I asked him about it on camera, Chris smiled, big smile, because he knows I know, which is, we've seen it before, dude. It's like, the old I don't like this teacher. The teacher yells at me. No, I don't like my coach. My coach yells at me. Well, in pro sports, when they stop yelling at you, it's over.
Right.
When they are yelling at you, that means you've got a ton of talent. You got a ton of potential. So between Connor Colby, Drew Moss, who's another undrafted guy, and Austin Pleasance, they have discovered some really quality depth. I'll say this. Maybe I'm wrong, and we'll see. But I'll say this. I think there's a chance that when they reconfigure everything this summer and they get back here and they do, and Colton McKivitz looks bigger, stronger, by the way. And Burford looks leaner and faster. Some of these guys really, really got in shape.
Well, and I want to talk about Jake Brendel, because to me,
yeah, we will. But Chris said to the O lineman at the end of the year, Damon, he said, when you guys come back here, I want you to spend your offseason working on quickness, speed, and agility. So he told them that was their mandate. You guys all go work on improving your quickness, your speed, and your agility. So that's what they're working on. But Pleasance and Colby add 2 guys. One guy that at the end of last year that did play in that last game, and then the rookie, obviously, in Colby. But they've added a couple guys here that they really like and they think could be starters. What I was going to say is I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm going to tell you just so you can be on the lookout and the people who watch us can be on the lookout. One thing to be on the lookout for this summer is that possibly Austin Pleasance may be so good and so improved that he has to play and he has to be one of their 5 starters. And there's a chance that and if that's the case, it will only be at right tackle, which would move McKivitz to left guard or center in place of Barch or Brendel. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the Niners, I think, are going to try to put their best foot forward this year, put their best players on the field. And there's a chance that if Pleasance looks like this summer, that he will be a better option than, him on the line might be a better option than Barch at left guard. We'll see. But look, just factor that away. Don't be shocked if that happens this summer. If you're
Barch, if you're McKivitz, Austin Pleasance in the rearview mirror might be the spark you need to take that step forward, so it is good. That's good. Guys pushing each other is a good thing. You're so right about coaches getting in dudes' asses. It's because they really want to care. This is going to bring us something that we were going to talk about a little bit later here, Larry. When we talk about Brock Purdy, the qualities that we like, and every single time this guy steps to the microphone, it's perfect. I've never seen a guy get a 100% score on like every media moment the way that Brock Purdy does, which is part of the reason why he's a franchise quarterback, by the way. It really is. You are the public forward-facing face of a franchise when you are a team quarterback, and what you say and how it lands in the media matters. It changes the temperature in the room. Well, Brock was talking about, how he wants to be coached hard. That is a major missing ingredient in sports today across all levels of sports, from youth sports to professional sports, wanting to be coached hard, especially for a generation that was raised with, let's just say, a gentler hand than maybe the generation that you and I come from, Larry. Again, my coach, when you say coach, what's the first face that pops into your mind? For me, it's always going to be Bob Knight. And Bob Knight was the antithesis of soft, friendly approach to coaching. Like, this dude was a drill sergeant. Times changed. Bobby never did. And that's what sunk him ultimately. Brock Purdy would have fucking loved Bob Knight. He would have loved playing for Bob Knight. And this guy knows that the chewing out only happens because it's competition, and it's not personal, and they're trying to motivate you, and, wanting a hard day's work. How many guys get paid millions and millions and millions of dollars and still want a really hard day's work? I would say Brock is one of those guys. And that's just another reason why I'm excited, and another reason why I think this team fits together, because guys like that set the tone for the entire locker room. If Brock can sit there and get a 3-minute verbal undressing from Kyle Shanahan, who isn't? Who isn't capable of getting that? And when you do get that, be happy that you're getting it, because it means the guy's paying attention.
Well, and, let's be honest. Kyle Shanahan is not a perfect person. He's not. I think he's a very good coach. I do. I really do. I know you do as well. We believe that Kyle Shanahan is a top-tier NFL coach.
He's gruff. He's snarly. He is not.
He's not
trying to wrap everything. He's not trying to wrap everything in a nice little present and make you feel good at every single moment.
Not at all. Not at all. He coaches guys hard, and it ain't. And by the way, it's not fair. And it's not even. When I say fair, it's just saying he's not as hard on the defensive linemen as he is on the quarterbacks. He's not as hard on the linebackers as he is on the receivers. He has a tendency to coach the position groups that are in his purview like really, really hard. And, the one thing that I think is a reality of playing for the 49ers at quarterback is you're going to have to deal with the advantage. You get the advantages of a Kyle Shanahan scheme and all that goes with it, and the advantages of having several guys who are, Pro Bowl or maybe even Canton-bound type players you're playing with. But the downside is Kyle Shanahan gets in your ear, and he's probably at times unfair, and he probably is at times, overly negative. And I bet you it can be tough to. I don't look at the Shanahans, Mike or Kyle, as these guys who really, took a young quarterback and put him in the hand and just, cradled them. It's like, no, these guys are great play callers, and they have really high demands on the quarterback. And just from talking to Steve Young a little bit about his experience with Mike Shanahan, you could tell Mike Shanahan had really, really high standards. Now, Steve did too. But Mike had really, really high standards, and so does Kyle. But Brock and Kubiak told us a few weeks ago when we had a chance to talk to him that Brock has had a great offseason and that he demands to be coached hard and he wants to practice the things that he's not good at and he wants honest feedback and he doesn't want people sucking up to him and telling him he's great. And, all those things get you better. And I'll say this, too. The one thing the Niners, one of the other weaknesses that the Niners had last year is that their receivers were 32nd in the NFL in separation. They didn't separate. And so every ball that Brock Purdy threw was kind of a 50-50 ball, and he wound up throwing a few more interceptions than he wanted to by the end of the year. I think you take out Debo and Aiyuk and add in Cowing, Guerendo, and Jordan Watkins. And I asked Brock about this. I said, what's it going to be like having so much more speed? And he's like, well, I got my core guys like Kittle and, Juice and, CMC. I got those guys, but now I've added this whole other group. And I just think that you're going to see Damon Cowing and Watkins and Guerendo to some degree as well get separation. And then we're going to see a pretty accurate quarterback in Brock Purdy, I think, make some big plays because that's what if Cowing can separate, I think he has already demonstrated in this OTA period that his hands, which last year didn't look great, this year looks so much more like his college hands, which were great. And Cowing is catching some rockets on the practice field.
Well, and
Leonard Hankerson says that since January, every day basically, Cowing and Pearsall have been there just grinding every single day.
Is he keeping his feet underneath him?
Yes.
I mean, I thought that Cowing was the guy who looked like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo out there, where he would just go, whoop, 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 and then he'd fall over. He'd slip over on his own regard. He was tackling himself.
Yeah. He just wasn't strong enough last year. He looks about 10 pounds heavier, 12 pounds heavier. I would say he was about, high 160s, low 170s last year. I would say he's between 180, 185 now. But what I've noticed more than anything is that you're seeing a ton of the back of Cowing's jersey. And that's what you want to be seeing with receivers. You want to see the back of their jersey because that means they're running down the field and they're making plays down the field. Cowing, Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Demarcus Robinson averaged 16 yards a reception. Cowing is a 4.3 guy. Watkins is a 4.3 guy. The Niners have a ton more speed now. And I don't think they're going to miss Debo and Aiyuk. I really don't because I think I think Brock looks good. I think the line looks good. And I think the speed that they have. Guerendo, like I was saying to Dieter last night, I think Guerendo, Damon, is going to be the guy that our friends who follow the NFL from around the country are going to be, the Sam Bateshes and the different guys who follow the NFL and follow the Niners. I think the guy that we're going to hear the most about is Guerendo because Guerendo is going to be easier to get the ball to because he's a running back and he's got unfreaking believable hands. And on the practice field right now, it's like a bunch of Fords and Chevys, and then there's one Pagani. There's one Ferrari in the middle of a room of Tauruses. It's like this guy is a Ferrari. He's so fast.
At what point does he call the wide receiver on this team? At what point are they just going to say, all right, so
they're going to throw it to him?
Your position.
Yeah, they're going to throw it to him. I don't know what position he's going to play, but they're going to throw it to him. And I'll just say this. He's going to be a fantasy factor. I don't know how, and it may not be every week, but, man, Guerendo, they threw him last year 16 passes. He caught 15. I mentioned to Bobby T, I said, that's an incredible ratio. I go, was that beginner's luck, or does this guy have great ball skills? He's got great ball skills. So and more than anything, Bobby T said it like 2 or 3 times. He's like, Guerendo has the best attitude. He's like, this guy really embraces the work. This guy really embraces the grind. He badly wants to get better. And from Bobby T throws compliments around like manhole covers. I mean, he does. He doesn't want to compliment anybody, but man, he had nothing but really great things to say about the work ethic and the approach to football of Isaac Guerendo. And that, combined with what he looks like on the practice field, tells me watch the fuck out for Isaac Guerendo this year. he's going to be huge.
The only thing that's kind of bothered me about the 49ers this week, and I mean, football bothered. I mean, I didn't lose a minute of sleep over it, but the one time Brandon Aiyuk enters the chat, at least publicly this week, it's a negative entrance point. He's the cryptic messages. You can't be, putting pictures of T.O. doing sit-ups in the driveway and think that that's not going to mean something here in the Bay Area, even though it happened when T.O. was in Philly. We know what that means. It means I'm an unhappy wide receiver. And I've even seen some people saying, well, I'm going to defend what Brandon Aiyuk is doing here because he's got to be really frustrated because he's getting, he's getting crapped on by everybody, his own team included, which is, maybe not thrilled with having him on the roster anymore. And no, I'm sorry. Like, that guy just needs to get back on the field. He just needs to get off social media and get back to football. And if he does that, everyone is going to quickly re-embrace him and he will feel like he's right back in the circle of love. He's, the best ability is availability. Right now he's unavailable and it's got to be a very frustrating place. But man, I mean, why would that guy foray back into the headlines in a negative way? I just don't get it. And then you could tell that his agent immediately, what was he called, Matt Mayoko or someone, because there was instantly a story about how, well, Brandon Aiyuk is there and he's working with the wide receivers and he's being an on.
He's a pseudo coach.
Yeah, he's a pseudo coach. It's amazing how that story comes out 3 hours after the latest nonsense from Brandon Aiyuk. And I would just, again, if I could just give him some advice, I'd just be like, dude, put the phone down. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping your image. You're not helping your brand. You're certainly not helping your team. It's just, it's some serious, like, high school chick behavior. Like, you're looking for attention on social media the way a sophomore who wants to go out on the Saturday night does. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Maybe it's because I'm just a little older. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, not only do I don't get it, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Brandon Aiyuk's upset. I don't give a fuck.
Right. He's making guaranteed $78 million. Why is he so upset?
I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, it doesn't impact me. It doesn't impact the team. It is off-putting though, because you're sitting there going, well, the rest of the team is showing up 100% attendance. Malik Mustafa, who's hurt and not going to play for a while, he's standing there on the sidelines. Where the hell are you? If you're such a coach on the field, well, why come we're not seeing you on the field? So I don't know. I'm not sure what to say about Brandon Aiyuk. Hopefully it all works out. I don't know. I don't know what to say about him. People have suggested that, they could trade him, but I doubt that. He's here.
Yeah.
They paid him.
Player? Who's coming for a guy who's already damaged goods at that price point?
Exactly. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. So I don't, and I can't decipher as far as what he said, what it means. I don't know what it means. I don't care what it means. It's like, it just, the old, what was it? What Bill Murray movie where it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Was that Meatballs?
Well, yes.
Meatballs.
Meatball.
It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. That's what we ought to chant as the media to Aiyuk and his stupid tweet. It just doesn't matter. It's like, bro, figure it out. Whatever. Look, good luck to you.
You want to accuse me of being too generic in this? You go right ahead, because I wouldn't even say you're wrong. But I think that there's an awful lot of truth here. The three biggest moving parts of this offseason for the 49ers are simply this. How quickly can their new defensive rookies develop into a dependable group? I mean, there could be 5 rookies first play of this season's defense up in Seattle. There could be 5 rookies on the field. There could be. Probably won't be, but there could be. So how quickly their new defensive rookies all see the matrix is right in the center of how this entire season plays out. There's their rapid taking to what the 49ers are doing is a mandatory element to success this year. Beyond that, and like you just talked about with your excitement about Austin Pleasance and the depth of an offensive line, which was probably picked on a little bit too much last year. And while everything was going wrong around them, maybe they even looked even worse than they really were There's some weird numbers coming from last year's season that we'll get to. But this offensive line's ability to protect Purdy and just make this running game respected and feared once again is going to take this season to the postseason or be the reason why it doesn't get there.
And they don't get to the postseason, man. They're going to have a hard.
People are losing their jobs, Larry, if they don't get to the postseason based on this schedule. Also, and this is the most generic of all three prongs of this is because every team is suffering from this. Their core veterans must stay healthy. The Kittle, Bosa, Warner, Williams core. If those guys are out there for 17 weeks or 15 of 17 weeks and play the vast majority of the snaps at their position, I think things go well again for the Niners this year. I really do.
I agree, by the way. I mean, they're going to have that, Damon. And that's not crazy talk, really. I mean, most teams, you could probably say the same about most teams, that you got 4 or 5 of your key guys. You got to basically keep them healthy.
Basically, what I just
Trent
said.
Williams is
here's what I just said: play good defense, protect your quarterback, don't get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's like these are almost like constants. The constants across the sport. By the way, we were talking about Aiyuk, and I was trying to think what were we talking about with Aiyuk last night, and I forgot this little nugget came across. Look at this one. Jordan Schultz, sources, Commanders All-Pro wide receiver Terry McLaurin has made it clear to the team that he's frustrated with the lack of progress in a long-term deal. As I previously reported, McLaurin unexpectedly left voluntary workouts after initially attending, and it remains to be seen. Let's see, hold on a second.
Scary Terry.
Remains to be seen whether he'll report for mandatory minicamp. McLaurin is entering the final year of his contract. Talks have been minimal. Okay, here we go. You want a way out of the Aiyuk contract? His boy is Jaden Daniels. They're buddies going way back. You call the Commanders and say, hey, we'll send you our receiver. Yeah, he's hurt, but he's signed. You don't got to worry about signing this guy long term. And suddenly the Niners get a Terry McLaurin, but then the Niners also have the ability to get out. The Niners didn't want to sign Aiyuk. So now you could trade Aiyuk for Terry McLaurin, maybe throw in a draft pick, and then at the end of the year, let Terry McLaurin walk. If you want, I mean, you could re-sign him if you love him, but if you don't love him, you just let him walk. Now he's walking away when Pearsall and Cowing and Watkins are in year 2 and 3 and they're ready to contribute. I would do that if Adam Peters called John Lynch this morning and said, man, Terry McLaurin's a pain in my ass. We weren't banking on him walking out, and he walked out. He's got another year in his contract, but he's unhappy. How about this? Trade me Aiyuk, and you can have McLaurin, and then that gives you a way out of the Aiyuk contract, and it gives us a way to pivot away from McLaurin to a guy that will be more popular with Debo and our quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Win-win. What do you think, John? Let's do this. If I'm Lynch, I'm doing it. I'm absolutely doing it.
Right. If the Commanders are the ones to initiate that call, you do that at the speed.
I would do that. But McLaurin's a little older, and he might not be quite as good. But we also don't know what Aiyuk is going to be. Aiyuk is signed, so you got cost certainty down the road, where McLaurin is not signed, and who knows what kind of crazy money he might demand. So you may just be Aiyuk for 1 year of Terry McLaurin, but that might not be the worst thing either. That might not be the worst thing.
There's 2 reasons why this would never happen. Number one, why would, after watching what the 49ers did or didn't do, I should say, at the wide receiver position last year, why would you trade for the 49ers starting wide receivers? But that's basically what you've done. Not only do I have Debo, but now I got Brendel and Aiyuk.
Yeah, but Peters and Daniels, I would imagine, like Aiyuk. I know what you're saying, but Aiyuk wasn't bad. He just got hurt. He played okay. Right. He wasn't the same player, but then he got hurt. But I mean, I would still say Aiyuk is a top NFL receiver. I don't know if he's not top 10, but I would say they're comparable. I would say Terry McLaurin at this juncture, who's a couple years older than than Aiyuk, and Aiyuk are comparable receivers. If somebody had to, Damon, let's just say they weren't viewed as even, and you had to throw in a pick. So what? Who cares? I would do that. I would throw in that. Why? Because here's the unspoken part about the Niners, and you and I already kind of alluded to it just a minute ago. Even though Lynch and Shanahan are signed up long term, it's a very volatile situation right now. Right. If the 49ers come out and win the Super Bowl this year, Jed is going to be like, they were always made men, and they're going to be here as long as they goddamn want to be here, right? Sorry for the swearing this morning. I'm a little feisty. On the other hand, if you know what I'm saying, so that could work. If they have a good year, these guys could be here long term. If the 49ers miss the playoffs, you said it, and I agree with you. Somebody's getting fired. And I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody's getting fired. It's probably going to be Lynch. That'll be my guess. And so even though this year looks like a reset and somewhat benign, like, hey, it's kind of they're in a reset. No, come on. The Yorks have high expectations. Trent, Kittle, Bosa, the Warner, those guys have really high expectations. Kyle and John have really high expectations. The Niners expect to be really good, and they expect to compete for a title, and they expect to go to the playoffs and win playoff games and probably go to the Super Bowl, and if they have a good enough team, they expect to win it. So, look, they have high expectations. If they fall on their face and win 7 games and don't make the playoffs, multiple people are getting fired. So this trade would actually make a lot of sense. It makes sense for the Commanders because they get out from the question mark of will they or won't they on Terry McLaurin. It works because they get a receiver that their quarterback loves, that their other receiver loves, who's younger. And the Niners win because in their gotta-have-it year that is kind of only you and I really know that they gotta have it. Everybody else kind of thinks they're here forever. They're going to get a player who's ready to play as opposed to a player who might not play until November. So
I think if you were to do that trade, you'd have to give McLaurin you're not bringing him in on a 1-year flyer. Like to get the deal done, he's going to want that extension.
Yeah, probably. Maybe you could do a short-term extension while you do a longer extension. Maybe you could do a 1-year extension and then
like a little negotiate. Wait and see, short
or something. I mean, maybe there's maybe there's a deal to be had there. But I'm just saying, from the Niners' perspective, if you're trying to win games this year, and you could either have a healthy Terry McLaurin or Aiyuk not until November, you would take McLaurin. But the question is, how much pressure is there on Lynch and Shanahan? I think there's considerable pressure on Lynch and Shanahan, and I also think Washington could go for that deal. I think they absolutely could. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. That's a relatively new development, by the way.
Yeah, the other former 49er wide receiver that I saw in the news a little bit was Kendrick Bourne. And would the 49ers be interested in coming back to Kendrick Bourne? No. I think
it depends. Talk to us in July.
Right. But I don't think Kendrick Bourne is a guy that I want to give snaps to above Cowing, above Pearsall, above Garendo in what are, big
Watkins
you guys years for them.
Yeah, I agree. But things change. We could get to July and Cowing, who's slight, could be hurt. Pearsall, who's been hurt, could continue to be hurt. And the Niners could be looking at giving multiple roster spots to Isaiah Hodgins, Isaiah Nair, guys like that. And then maybe they would have some interest, but you never know. I agree with you, though. Right now, if I'm going to go add a receiver, I would want to add, and I said it to you, I think a couple weeks ago, Malachi Corley. I'd want to add somebody who I could cut, and that I could acquire for very little. I could cut. I don't know if I want to go for like a Keenan Allen, an Amari Cooper, a Gabe Davis. I know those guys have big names, and I know they've had some really good careers, but I would rather go with younger guys and then just see which younger guys emerge, and keep your price down. I think that's the route I would go. Or, like, give you an example, Damon. There's a lot of talk about in Green Bay that Romeo Doubs is going to be available this summer. If I'm the 49ers, I think I would not go for a receiver right now and see if you get to July or August and somebody like that comes available. That might be enough.
And as we talked about it like a week ago, Tyreek Hill, just wait. That's a wait and see, right? I mean,
probably prohibitive cost-wise, probably too
huge money
character issues for the Niners, but he's always interesting. You got to consider him because of how good he is, but I think his character is probably he's probably too risky as far as.
Well, here's the thing: there's what 3 prongs of any bringing in a contract like that. What's his character? What's his price point? What does he do on the field? What he can do on the field might be even a little bit in doubt because he had a down year last year, but he's still Tyreek Hill. The character and the money are both huge. Like, let's circle these with the red pen, and then these are issues.
I mean, it would almost seem like you'd have to move an Aiyuk to get him, right? You're not going to be able to have Tyreek Hill and Brandon Aiyuk.
No. And a $20 million tight end. It's not, yeah.
And I don't know that they're, they want Aiyuk with the injury, but who knows? You never know. I'll say this. I threw another in. We were going with bold predictions late last night, and my bold prediction for the upcoming camp is that Tanner Mordecai is going to beat out Mac Jones. And I saw them both on the practice field the other day, and they looked pretty good. I mean, Mac didn't look terrible. He wasn't his best day, but he looked okay. Tanner Mordecai looks great. I mean, he's running, he's throwing, he should look great. He knows this offense. He's been in it. He looks good. If he beats out Mac Jones, and I brought this up last night, there's reports out of Indianapolis that Shane Steichen is done with Anthony Richardson, and that Daniel Jones is likely to get that job, and that Richardson's got an injury now, and he may not even be back until the middle of training camp. So it sounds like Shane Steichen wants to move off of Anthony Richardson. Let's just say, for the sake of the conversation, that Mac Jones plays well in the Niners system this summer. Let's just say Shane Steichen calls you at the cutdown and says, hey, look, I see Tanner Mordecai. He's your number 2 and not your number 3. Matt makes Mac your number 3. How about this? Trade us Mac so he can back up Daniel Jones and Riley Leonard, and we'll give you Anthony Richardson. And you can have Anthony Richardson behind Mordecai to do whatever you want. I mean, if you had dreamt the Trey Lance dream, Anthony Richardson is bigger, stronger, faster than Trey Lance. What do you think?
So here's the thing. If
we're talking about it, I would do it.
What would you want? I would want to pick in an upcoming draft more than I would want Anthony Richardson, who I think is.
Aren't you intrigued by him, though? I'm intrigued by him, man. He's 6. You're talking about 6'4", 240. He runs 4.4. I mean, Trey Lance was 6'4", 220.
He can't put 4 games together without getting hurt.
Well, not only that, his completion percentage last year was 47%. I'm not saying he's good. I'm saying he's bad enough that he could not be your 2, but he could be your 3. And I would be like, if you gave me a quarterback room with Brock Purdy, Tanner Mordecai, who's graduated to, hey, he's really dependable as the number 2 quarterback, and he's real, and I think that's going to happen this summer. He looks great. And then you've got that 3rd spot. Like Mac Jones, Damon, if you put Mac Jones in that 3rd spot, he's going to be pissed. But if Mordecai beats him out, Mordecai's got to be that 2nd quarterback. So I think Mordecai's going to beat him out. I think Mordecai looks really good to me. And if you could take Mac Jones, who was an NFL starter, and flip him to Indy for a talent like Richardson, I would love to see what Kyle Shanahan. I wanted to see what Kyle Shanahan could have done with Trey Lance.
Wouldn't you rather watch Mordecai than Richardson? Like, if you're keeping Mordecai,
I know, Damon, but here I'm a believer, like Howie Roseman, in that you can never have enough good players. Like, Howie's got Hurts, but he now also has Tanner McKee. But it didn't stop him from adding the kid McCord from Syracuse. So they've got DTR as well. So all I'm saying is, I think Richardson has a 20% chance at best of becoming a good NFL quarterback. But his skill set is so freaking intriguing that if Tanner Mordecai does beat out Mac Jones, I think this would be the perfect opportunity to flip Mac Jones for Richardson and have Richardson be that third quarterback. I'd do it.
Well, look,
I would do it.
Kyle Shanahan is basically, the Jeff Spicoli of quarterbacks who've lost their way in this league. He looks out after he crashes the car with Forrest Whitaker and goes, "I can fix it." Shanahan looks at every.
Is this Spicoli from Fast Times?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Hand.
My dad's got a toolkit. I can fix it. And this is, I think, how Shanahan looks at all lost causes. And, look, he got the very best out of C.J. Beathard, who the minute he was out of Shanahan's umbrella, was rained on by the NFL again. He has put more money in Sam Darnold's pocket than Sam Darnold was even able to. With the opportunity he created for him is the intrigue. Then he goes to Minnesota. By the way, watch Sam Darnold sort of wilt a little without that talent in Minnesota around him. I think.
Are you hearing that story? Did you see that story yesterday? Is that you were reacting to that? There was a story coming out of Seattle yesterday. Greg Bell from the Tacoma News said that Sam Darnold looked terrible in OTAs and threw 3 interceptions in like 4 snaps, and that he asked Michael McDonald, the Seahawks head coach, is Milroe up for the number 1 job? And they're like, no, Sam Darnold is brought here to be the number 1 guy. So now Sam Darnold is already being questioned. His place, his standing in Seahawks as the Seahawks starter is already being questioned by Seahawk media. I love it. I love it. But I will say this on the Niner thing.
I had not read that story, but I just know football. So I can feel that story coming. I know it's coming because situations make careers. And I think that a lot of people, again, my single biggest problem with some 49ers coverage is any situation can go wrong. But to try to look at the 49ers and say their situation is one of negligence and built to go wrong is ridiculous. The 49ers are a great situation to be in. It's great for coaches. It's great for players. This is a well-run organization. And to try to frame them as anything but that is ridiculous. There's an axe to grind there that has nothing to do with the reality that we're seeing. And you can just see Mac Jones on the podium. If he is worried about Tanner Mordecai, boy, he isn't saying anything about it. He's talking about how great it is to be here, and the attention to detail that Kyle has coaching into his quarterbacks is something that he's been thirsting for, and he loves just how it's all coming together. These guys who go from bad situations come to the 49ers, they zip their lips, they get to work, and they leave here with better opportunities to be millionaires elsewhere. The 49ers are run really, really well. And even in a bad year last year, God, I want to make sure I got this into today's show, Larry. I think this is one of the more interesting things of the year. So the team last year finished 1-6 in their final 7 games, 6-11 overall. They got rid of several veterans. Again, people were, having conniption fits over who was leaving, and it was going to be a disaster. And Tim Kawakami saying it's a throwaway year and blah, 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 blah. All right, well, right now, they have a 35.8% chance to win the NFC West. That's the best in the division. They've got a 62.4% chance to be a playoff team. That's the 3rd best in their conference. And when it comes to the worst to first evaluations, they've got far and away the best odds to improve. And that's because last year, the record was much worse than the football team actually was. And I know no one wants to hear that. And Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are. There's so much truth to that, but there's also
no, that's not true. That's not. You are not. You are not what you're. It's like watching a horse race, and you're watching 2 great horses, and they're dueling, Damon, but they're dueling in the backstretch, and then all of a sudden, horse number 1 takes off and has a 5-length lead. And then horse number 2 finishes 7.5 lengths behind. And people are like, horse number 2 got just destroyed. Well, it looked like that at the end, but really they were dueling on the backstretch. And they lost the duel and fell off and lost momentum. What happened to the Niners is they got eliminated from the likely being making the playoffs, and then it was like they had a couple injuries, and it was like guys just Trent didn't come back, and all of a sudden there was no Aiyuk, there was no Debo, there was no CMC, there was all of a sudden you looked up and you had nothing. So they evaporated. The 49ers, I'm not saying they weren't playing to win at the end, but once they were done with the playoffs, I don't think they were playing to win.
That's the thing. I think, and that frustrated us with some player choices in the moment. Tanner Mordecai should have started that final week of the year. Why not? It was stupid not to. Here's what I wanted to get to. Last year's team. And this is, by the way, this and 275 gets you on Muni. This is worthless, but it also isn't. Last year's DVOA for this team was the best ever by an 11-loss team going back to 1978. It's probably not reassuring.
Where'd you get that?
Probably not reassuring to hear that you have the best. You're the best ever 11-loss team. Congratulations. But that's where they were. Where did I get? I can't. I'll find where I got it and forward it to you.
I mean, that's an interesting stat. I mean, it's not one that you hear a lot. But yeah, no, I think when you hear that, your sense of that is because as I said, it was like they weren't good enough, but the Niners have been so competing for the ultimate prize that I really think when they were knocked off their perch and it was obvious that it wasn't their year, that they backslid and they didn't. They some horses run a terrible race, but they come flying at the end. But they were never in the race. But they finished third. And other horses are in the race, absolutely, head bobbing down at the top of the stretch, and then they just died down the stretch. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, well, this horse was bad. And like a buddy of mine would be like, hey, you know what? Look at the form. This horse isn't bad. This horse just quit in the final, 100 yards or whatever. This horse was leading at, that's why when you read the form, it will show you kind of the other races and how the race went. And so I think that had a lot to do with it.
I think
you're disappointed from losing, and all of a sudden you're like,
right,
we're going to lose big.
Look, once the Niners, who are quite used to running the lead lap, once they fell off the lead lap, everything sort of fell apart. It really did. Plus the injuries. Plus, and again, there's another.
Once they couldn't win, it didn't matter to them that they finished second, third, fourth, fifth.
Right. And
so they just were like, screw it.
Right. You're first or last, Ricky Bobby, I guess, right?
Right. I mean, to some degree, that is their mindset. And you'd say, well, isn't everybody's mindset the same? Not really. When you compete for Super Bowls, your mindset is Super Bowls. Like, look what happened to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. When all of a sudden it was like they weren't going to win the Super Bowl. It just steamrolled on them.
Right.
Do we really think Philly is like way, 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 way better than Kansas City? No, they were that day.
Right. But the minute that Mahomes threw that pick six to be down 17 zip, it was good night, Irene.
Yeah.
And we all knew it. We all knew it.
Momentum is a thing in sports.
Yeah, there's only one team that really couldn't give a shit about your momentum, and that is the Indiana Pacers, who have absolutely no problem coming from way off the lead lap to win games, apparently. And I guess we'll get to that in just a tiny little bit here. But
paging Chet Holmgren, NBA superstar, supposed to arrive on the floor. Where the fuck were you? Sorry.
Dude, Tyrese Halliburton is a killer. That's all there is to it. The guy's a killer.
It was last night.
So look, it was it's a year that, last year's results, I think, are hanging over some people who cover this team in the media more than they're hanging over this team this year. I think everybody who plays for the 49ers agrees that was the aberration. This is not now who they are. That was a year where it all went wrong. The entire sweater became untethered and untangled, and it all went to shit. And it sucked that it finished, but they weren't nearly as bad as their record was. The 49ers offensive line was not nearly as bad as its harshest critics want it to be. Brock Purdy was not nearly the incomplete player that some people suggested he was. He's the poorest covered athlete maybe in professional sports. He really is. And I don't know why, but people have just chosen, no matter what he does, in spite of the success, I'm going to report him as a failure. And so just have fun with that. Have fun with that.
Well, let's take a good story and make it a bad story.
Right.
Overnight. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's like who's a great story of accomplishment in another sport, like a Jeremy Lin or something. But that was more of like a meteor.
That was
like
a flash in the pan.
Yeah, he was a flash in the pan. But I mean, like, if you took somebody, I'll give you an example. I mean, it's a much lesser standard, a much lesser degree. But your guy, Trace Jackson Davis, he was the 57th pick in the draft. This guy has carved out an NBA career and is going to be in the NBA for the next 5 to 7 years. I feel very confident in saying that. Even though he doesn't have a great face-up, jump shot. But he can play, and he's a great story. He was the 57th pick in the draft. It would be like people just calling sports radio, just torching Trace Jackson Davis because he's not, an all-star power forward or an all-star center, and just ripping this guy. It's like, no, dude, you're taking a great story and you're making it a bad story because you're giving a standard to this guy that nobody ever expected him to play to, and now you're demanding that he play to this standard. So it's I don't know if Brock's covered wrong. I just think that maybe it's because of the Trey Lance thing. Maybe it's because of, the iconic nature of the Niners. Maybe it's because of I'll say this. I think Niner fans, and I maybe it's a Bay Area sports fan thing, because I kind of feel this way about Giants and Warriors fans as well. I get the sense that Warriors fans are Warriors fans and not fans of other teams. I get the sense that Giants fans are Giants fans but not fans of baseball. And I get the sense that Niner fans are more Niner fans than they are NFL fans, like most fans around the league. Why do I say that? Because every single time you bring up Purdy, somebody has to bring up Garoppolo. Somebody has to bring up Kaepernick. Like there's 3 damn quarterbacks in the history of the world.
Right. There's no other reference point.
Have you ever seen a quarterback that wasn't on the Niners? Or like I said to Marty last weekend, he's like, the Giants don't hit. What are they going to do? I'm like, get rid of Lamont freaking Wade. And he's like, nah, you can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, Giants fans, is that you think you can't say goodbye to crappy, totally mediocre players that you didn't even draft. And it's like Buster Posey yanked his sheets and sent him packing months after he probably should have. And Giants fans were willing to sit with Wade for another month or two of nothing, despite no offense, no defense, no power, no speed, no nothing. I mean, it's like, so are you a baseball fan? Do you know baseball? Are you a Giants fan who only knows Giants and you're sitting there, late night Lamont? I get the same vibe with the Warrior fan. It's like Warrior fan is constantly ripping. The people that are ripping Kerr have no idea what they're talking about. This guy's one of the best coaches of all time. You're going to sit there and just because some of their young players don't develop and he doesn't have a propensity to want to play some young players, it's like, he wants to win. He wants to win. The NBA is packed with guys that are too young. There's 25 guys spread across the league that should still be in college. And if you play those guys, guess what? You freaking lose. So Steve doesn't want to lose, so he doesn't want to play these guys that can't play and don't know how to play. But no, it's like instead you got, these moronic Warrior people who are just like, Steve Kerr needs to be fired. No, dude. You need to pick a new hobby and pick a sport that you actually understand. You're talking about one of the best coaches in basketball, and because you don't like how many minutes he plays or doesn't play a young player, you're going to try to run him out on the third rail to go hire Mike Brown. I mean, give me a break. I mean, some of these. So sometimes I get the vibe that the local fans of these teams don't watch the rest of the league. You have to watch the rest of the league, or you'll have no perspective on the sport that you're covering. I mean, it's as simple as that. Every time Brock Purdy struggles, you can't say he's Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, right. I believed in Jimmy. I bought Jimmy's jersey, and Jimmy sucks, and I got stuck with it. I bought Kaepernick's jersey. I thought he was going to be good, and he sucked. They're different guys, different stories, different careers, just because they played for the same team. Broaden your scope.
I've always said that the guys who quickly just pounce on a bad game and try to use that as a referendum are the exact same guys who, when they're playing Madden, throw a first quarter interception and hit the reset button.
They rage quit.
These are rage quitters without a doubt. Brock right now is 28-1 to win the MVP. And oh, by the way, if you're looking for value, you're looking for line value, that's pretty good value, I think. Just based on so if
he's going to be good, he's going to have a good year. He looks really good on the practice field. And when I say really good, he just looks very decisive. He's in great shape. He's been throwing the heck out of the football on the practice field, and he's got receivers now who can gain separation. So not every pass is going to be, it's going to be a 50-50 ball. He's going to hit Cowing in the clear. He's going to hit Watkins in the clear. And Niner fans are going to be like, dude, how did Cowing get so open? Dude, how did Watkins, Yeah. It's called speed, and they have it. And Debo and Aiyuk and JJ have to be the slowest trio of receivers on a good team I've seen in a long, long time.
Purdy is plus 2,800, so he's 28-1 to win the MVP. That has him. So here's the thing: you never want to bet the favorites. There's no betting value there. Lamar number one at plus 550. Allen is plus 600. Mahomes plus 650. Burrow plus 700. We're betting on none of them because we like stakes. Jaden Daniels at 850 ain't bad.
Unless you think there's a sophomore slide,
which there will be, by the way. There will be.
I mean, I'll say this. I don't know if there'll be one, but I guarantee you, I know enough about the NFL to know that when a guy has a year like Jaden Daniels had, he essentially becomes everybody's project to study.
Right. I think he's going to have a CJ Stroud year too. I think there will be a step backwards before there's another step. I would invest in both Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud. These are very good young quarterbacks, but progress is not linear. Expect a step back as the footage and the coaching tape is now out there on these guys.
Who would you bet on? Who? Give me a couple more names on this list.
So Herbert is plus 2,000.
Had a great statistical year last year, and they did add Amarion Hampton, who's going to run the heck out of the ball.
Second year under Jim Harbaugh is usually a good year for quarterbacks. I think there's some value there.
I like that.
It's one of those, if the Chargers do anything, Herbert will be right in the middle of all of their success. So that's a decent place to put a little money. Love or Stroud at plus 2,500, and then Brock is plus 2,800.
I don't honestly stay away from Love. Here's why. I think the Love thing, the Packers are getting the wide receiver room wrong. They first did it right. They got rid of Devontae and went volume. They brought in Jaden Reed. They brought in Romeo Doubs. They brought in Christian Watson. This year they said, we got to go first round. They brought in Golden, and they brought in Savion Williams. Rookie receivers struggle. And rookie receivers in a room of other young receivers who have yet to get paid. I've already seen the sniping going back and forth. Jaden Reed's like, what about me? Christian Watson's like, what about me? Romeo Doubs that may get dealt.
Look, I mean,
there's weird vibes. There's weird vibes around the quarterback and the receivers there. I think vibes are going to kill Green Bay this year. I don't know why. That's my vibe. My feeling is that they have talent, but that the mix isn't right, and there'll be too many guys pointing the finger. I think Green Bay and Minnesota, I think, backslide in that division this year.
Our friend Sam Batesh is going to be joining me at 11 West Coast. We normally go on Thursdays, but I was off yesterday because I took Jack to the ballpark, and we are going to be talking about what I saw happen in the middle of that baseball game, Aaron Rodgers is back in our football lives and what that means to the Steelers. And are you ready for another year of Aaron Rodgers? And so we're going to be talking about that. But that's kind of.
What do you think?
I think that Pat Fryermuth's fantasy value just went through the roof. Aaron Rodgers loves tight ends in the red zone. Here's the thing. If you get Aaron Rodgers conspiracy theory tinfoil hat Aaron Rodgers, good luck with that. If you get Aaron Rodgers in his, oh man, my reputation is in tatters and I just need to go and be a good quarterback again. Maybe. Here's the thing. I can't crap over the quarterback who the minute you put him in the room is the best quarterback in that room. Is Aaron Rodgers perfect? At 41, is he what you want? With all the head, this guy's got more baggage than Terminal 2 at SFO. He really does. But he's the best quarterback in their room, instantly. And
I think it's going to be riveting, dude. I think it's going to be riveting. I think he's going to start off hot. I think he's going to start off hot. I think he's going to look good early, really good. But the Steelers did draft 3 offensive linemen last year, and young offensive linemen have growing pains.
Yes, they do.
There will be some growing pains, and Rodgers will get knocked out. And then things will start to unravel, and I think Pittsburgh is going to miss the playoffs. I think Pittsburgh is going to have a losing record for the first time ever under Mike Tomlin. I think the bottom's going to fall out. I think they're going to be riding high early, and early in September, people are going to be talking about the Steelers are a Super Bowl contender. Watch out for the Steelers. Rodgers looks great. Steelers are running the ball. Steelers, Rodgers, Steelers. Oh, and then he's going to get hurt. They're going to go to Mason Rudolph, and they're going to miss the playoffs. And then it's going to be like, oh, my God, they shouldn't have sold out for Rodgers and how old he was and blah, blah, blah. So that's my prediction. Steelers have 2 years this year. They have a hot start where people are like, oh, my God, they're the Super Bowl team to watch for, and then he gets hurt and the whole thing falls apart and Tomlin has a losing season and he goes into next year on the hot seat.
Look, Aaron Rodgers couldn't find much health or success when he was with the New York Jets in sort of a cupcakey division that is the AFC East. He is moving into one of the thickest divisions in football, being a Pittsburgh Steeler now. So good luck with that. At the age of 41, good luck with that. Like you said, 3 rookie offensive linemen, good luck with that. But all you got to do is look at the Steelers quarterback room, which was Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and Skylar Thompson. And if you got to go out and play a football game, you're going to pick Aaron Rodgers ahead of all 3 of those guys. So I get why the Steelers did it. But you are right. He is also the one dude who is not going to shy away from publicly stabbing Mike Tomlin in the back the first minute he thinks it's going to serve a purpose for him. So I would be wary. You're right to be, the good times, bad times, Pittsburgh Steelers might be what we're looking at here, Larry. But I get why they did it. And I think that trying to explain that they just screwed that up, they shouldn't have done it, is ridiculous. Again, you cannot crap on the move that gets you the best player you have in that room. So we'll be talking about that with Sam, work our way out for a few other NFL stories as well, but that's coming up. Larry, I've also, and I'm so proud of him right now because Jack is home. He must be crushing that iPad upstairs because we have not seen him. He is a kindergarten graduate of kindergarten and is home right now. So I got to go make sure he's okay in between the 2 shows, but he's doing great. Let me tell you, we had a very expensive day at the ballpark. That's one thing, but there's no avoiding that. We also had a wonderful day at the ballpark. And there were like 4 or 5 times that I made eye contact and a little chit chat with other dads who were bringing their young sons with them to the game and how special it was. And
you have to share with us because there were some questions and kids have lots of questions. And their questions are usually genius because they're usually, they're through the eyes of children come some of the most incredible observations, and they ask questions that are great questions sometimes that are like, why didn't I think of that? Did Jack have any classic question for you?
He's in a Mandarin immersion program. So immediately, Dad, is Jung-Hoo Lee Chinese? So he was very interested. He wanted to talk a little Chinese with Jung-Hoo Lee, who we watched play center field all day long. He was very interested in when they would play catch. He was more interested in them playing catch in between the innings than he was the actual game.
Of course.
We talked about what stand-up triples were. We talked about what ground rule doubles were and why that Jung-Hoo Lee is just not on third. And now he's back at second, and that run did not plate early in the game. So we talked a little ground rules.
Okay.
But we mostly talked about
vendors and food.
Cotton candy, corn dogs, and churros. That was the three main topics for Jack that he wanted to get into. And another thing that we did was also just made the day. First of all, gorgeous day. Oh, yeah, he went to the Coke bottle. He loved the slide.
Did he go down the slide?
Yes, he did. He went down the small one, not the big one. Okay. There are two slides. There's older kids, younger kid slide. He did the younger kid slide. We took Muni to the game. Like, we parked in the neighborhood around West Portal. We got on Muni around West Portal, transferred from the K to the N Judah, and took that down to the ball. He loved it. It was such a day of San Francisco. It was wonderful. Crap all over the Giants for a lot of things as they're, reaching the struggle point in their season, but a very expensive day at the Yard is still a great day at the Yard. And there's a lot about baseball that has rubbed me the wrong way and turned me off. And I'm a little bit of a cynic now and just an angry old man at a lot of things. There's no doubt about that. But to be there with a kid and watch him experience all the beauty of Major League Baseball as a 5-year-old, like, it was special, man. I got a frog in the back of my throat talking about it a little bit. There's like, this is being a father.
It's what it's all about, man. It's what it's all about.
It is literally one of the great days of my life. And I tried to explain that to Jack when, we got
It's one of the great days of his life, too. He'll probably remember it.
I hope so.
Here's the thing. 1970, I grew up in the Sunset. My brother's 5 years older. I found out in 1976 that my dad took my brother, who at this point was 11. Okay. He took his 11-year-old to opening day, and he didn't take me. I was 6. Right. So, it really bothered me. It's funny. It's like, you think kids don't get bothered by these things. I was really bothered by it.
Ozzy is not happy that he didn't go, but I said, Jack's out of school. You're still in it. So that's why. And I have already promised Ozzy our own day at the ballpark later this summer, just him and me.
Yeah, exactly. So Christopher Shin says, explains everything, Larry. It explains everything. Exactly. I am the way I am. And this channel was created because of my discontent with my brother. No, but so my dad took my brother in 1976. And I remember just being like, what? I'm the baseball fan. And you didn't take me? How could you not take me? And I think I probably said to my dad 100 times, can I go next year? Can I go? Can I go? So now it's 1977 opening day. And my dad was like, yeah, I'm going to pick you up from school I'm going to drop you off for your first class. And then I'm going to pick you up, which is even better than not going to school. It's like going for one class and having your dad pick you up. So then my dad picked me up. And we went to the game, and my dad had field boxes. I sat next to the former mayor of San Francisco, George Christopher. He's like, "This is Mayor Christopher," and he's like, "Oh, nice to meet you, young man." And I shook his hand, and I just was sitting there with my dad in the sunshine at a Giants game on opening day when I knew my rest of my classmates were in school, and I just felt like the king of the world, Damon. I just felt there was no place. If that game could have gone on for eternity, it would have been fine with me to just sit there with my dad on a sunny day and watch the game. And I just remember how happy I was. That's what it's all about. I took my kids last year, my 3 boys, and I said, hey, let's go to an A's game. And so we went out to the A's White Sox game last year, and it was literally friends and family in the house, hardly anybody
Right.
there. But man, there's just something about sitting with your boys, and it gets even more enjoyable when they get a little older. And
Oh, totally.
sitting there with your boys, and they're talking with each other, and they're talking ball, and you're having a hot dog and a drink, and just I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's the romantic in me, but there's something I'm more connected to baseball as a fan than I am in the other sports. I don't know. I went to so many baseball games as a kid. It was very cost effective. I was a San Francisco Orange Crush Little Giant, which means that we paid like $11 a year, Damon, and we got tickets to like 18 games, and we sat in the upper deck in right field. And every Saturday they gave us an Orange Crush Giants thing, and me and my brothers and sisters, we take the Muni and we go to the game.
Did Candlestick Express?
The Candlestick Express on 19th Avenue, and took you right to the ballpark, dropped you off on 19th and Terraville. A lot of times we walked down Terraville we lived on 35th Avenue. But yeah, just great memories of my childhood at the ballpark. And I love football. I devote my channel to football. I've scouted in the NFL. I've scouted in the Canadian League. But you know what? There's something about baseball that is in me, and it's just I cannot say goodbye to it.
And all I can tell you is that the baseball,
I love baseball
that has been in me, my life, and the romance has been absolutely muted. My love of baseball is less than it used to be in my life, but
it's not as fun. It's not as athletic. It's not the same game. We saw a more athletic game in our child. I mean, that's the only thing that's amazing. The game that we saw in our childhood was more dynamic than the game in 2025. You cannot say that about the NFL. You cannot say that about the NBA. You cannot say that about the NHL. But you can say that about baseball. There's no Willie McGee. There's no St. Louis Cardinals. There's no Rickey Henderson. There's no Willie McCovey. There's no Barry Bonds. I mean,
There's no Jerome Walton. There's no Sean Dunston. There's no
Darryl Strawberry. There's no Doc Gooden. There's no athletes in the game. The athletes are not playing the game. So there are international athletes, but a lot of the greatest American athletes are playing other sports now.
Yeah.
So it's sad. I mean, Rickey Henderson stole 130 bases. Nobody's even going to steal 100. Nobody's even going to attempt 130 steals. I mean, it's the game that we saw in the 80s was the best that baseball's ever been. Why? Because it was obviously after segregation. So you have a fully integrated sport, but then you also had a high level of participation. And so now it's either a white sport or it's a international sport, and a lot of the top black athletes are not choosing baseball, and they've done it in such a high number. It's now impacted the game. I mean, why did I fall in love with baseball? My dad took me to a game in 1974, just a regular Friday night game. It was Giants had turf. They were playing the Phillies. We walked in as the Phillies were coming up in the top of the first. We had seats down the first base line. Bake McBride hit a ball in the right center field gap, and he hit that first base bag, and the helmet went flying, and the hair is bouncing, and he's circling the bases, and I was just mesmerized. I almost couldn't walk to my seat because I was just so mesmerized watching this athlete and watching this incredible show and the lights and the whole thing off the AstroTurf. This is before the Giants had before Candlestick had grass. And I was sold on the athleticism. You're not going to see a Bake McBride type triple from that caliber of an athlete hardly ever in today's game. And that was a regular occurrence back in the 70s.
Look,
the game's not the same.
Well, look, I see that one of the things you're talking about is, getting rid of the ghost runner. They should, because these games move along so quickly now, thanks to the pitch clock, which I thought I was going to hate, but I don't. I don't.
Right, right. The pitch clock. I'm with you on both of these points. I think the pitch clock is good, but because of the pitch clock, get rid of that ridiculous bastardization of baseball that you call extra innings.
Give me legitimate extra innings because these innings are flying. Let's go.
Yeah, and did Jack was the game? How long did you stay? Did you stay the whole game?
No, so we left eighth inning. He got antsy, and it was time, and I got
How long was it? Do you remember how long it was? How long you'd been there?
So we about 3 hours, which is the absolute breaking point of a 5-year-old's attention.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, so they're doing a good job at keeping the pace going. So all the more reason to have a legitimate extra innings. By the way, we have this one. My vibe is the 90s. Larry, what is your favorite 90s song? Oof. Wow. 90s song.
By the way, so not my favorite 90s song, but an example of a song that like I heard so many times I got sick and tired of it, but then you hear it by the end of it, you're all wrapped. Remember Smooth by Rob Thomas and Santana?
Not really, but
okay. So it was a Santana song and Rob Thomas, and it starts, and you're always like, man, this song again. They shoved this thing down my throat in the 90s. What do I? This is maybe early 2000s. I don't know, but I felt like I heard this song. By the end of the song, you're like, just like the ocean under the moon, like you're singing along to it, and you're like, it's freaking better than I remember, wasn't it?
I'll give you my favorite 90s song. Notorious B.I.G. Juicy.
Again,
I love that song.
Knowing what we know about Puff Daddy doesn't quite hold,
By the way, the Notorious B.I.G. though.
Yeah, but everything he did has Puff Daddy all over it going, take that. Yeah. I mean,
okay, well, either way, though, I love that song. I mean, that's a great song. I mean, come on. Hypnotized would be right there with it, but Juicy.
It's got the beat to Juicy sounds like a fat kid chewing bubble gum walking down the street. It's great. All right, so here, like I said, I got a 5-year-old upstairs. I don't know how much.
I could also, if I really want to go classic 90s, I'm looking at a list of 90s hits. Who could ever forget Tag Team Back Again with Whoop? Oh. There it is. Could you imagine if you danced at your wedding to Whoop? There it is.
Nothing.
Do you remember when Mom and Dad had their wedding? What was your guys' song? Well, we actually danced to Tag Team's Whoop. There it is. It'd just be awesome.
I got to tell you, the problem with the 90s is there were way too many boy bands, right? I mean, and I never got into the boy bands, Backstreet shit. Maybe the best song from the 90s it comes off of the Miseducation of Miss Lauryn Hill. That was an awesome album. She was great. God, I'm looking at
I'll give you another favorite of mine from back in the 90s. DJ Jazzy Jeff in the Fresh Prince with Summertime.
That was a great song.
That's a great song.
Anthem.
That's a great summertime anthem. I mean, that is a great
Bittersweet Symphony by the Verve Pipe. They got
the Verve Pipe. I remember them. I've thought of them in a long time.
Losing My Religion by REM. That song was freaking everywhere. Out of Time.
Oh my God, yes.
Monster album.
Here's a cult favorite of mine. I kind of like the video because a buddy of mine worked on editing this video. He's like, dude, I got a break, dude. I just edited a music video. And I'm like, really? Which one is it? He's like, it's Steal My Sunshine by Len. And on the video, this guy edited the video of this guy on like a Vespa. I don't know if you remember the video.
It's one of Jillian's top 5 songs. Jillian loves that song. It came up.
Steal My Sunshine?
Steal My Sunshine by Len. The only thing I don't like about it is how they preamble while they're coming into the beat. It's like boom, 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 and some guys talking about like Karen butter tarts and like
right.
I hate the preamble. I wish they would shut up and just let the song play. But it's from a movie, so I get it. The movie Go, starring Jay Moore, who was in that movie. It was a really good movie of the 90s, too.
Okay, I do. That was
Mark
a good song,
Morrison,
too.
Return of the Mac is the official answer, though. It really is. That is the best song maybe from the 90s, my vibe, the 90s. Return of the Mac is a banger to this day. Still gets the party going.
There you go.
All
Let's
right,
let's
we
hit
can
some
get
supers.
super.
Let's hit some supers. Fuji Simeon says, "Will there be a bottom of the pint today, Larry?" It's up to Johnny. John hasn't been able to go the last couple weeks. I'm a go. I'm a go tonight if John's ready to roll.
I got to wait till Jillian's back in town before I can join you guys. But London I did a show earlier this week, and we're going to all do it together real soon.
Oh, it'd be fun. It's a fun concept. Dale in the house is the only real negative in the off season is the BA garbage. I don't even, and what even is it? I don't even know what it is.
What he is desperate for attention is what he is.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, that's all I would say. Mason Davis, some fans are concerned with Renardo during OTAs. How's the secondary looked? Don't be concerned with Renardo. Renardo is going to be there when it matters. Yeah, he got burned on a couple of plays, but, once again.
Corners get burned on a couple plays all the time. It comes with the position. Yeah.
No, I don't worry about Renardo, I'd say. I grew up in the 90s. Sup, Larry? Or what? Larry likes our draft now? Larry always liked your draft. I like the Niners draft. I didn't like the Mikael Williams pick because I think that there were better players on the board than Mikael Williams. But I will say this, too. I like the Mikael Williams pick a lot more in concert with Bryce Huff because Bryce Huff can play the edge and Mikael Williams can play inside and they can play together, and, that's a good thing. So I like it. But I don't love the Mikael Williams pick. I will say this. The three guys that I liked the most at the draft, I said, I'm going to wait and see what these guys all look like in the mini camp. The three guys that I liked in the draft going into it, Nick Martin, Jordan Watkins, CJ West, are the three guys that I like the most coming out of it. CJ West, Nick Martin, and Jordan Watkins all have been absolutely fantastic in practice.
Heavy hands on CJ West, man. He's got some mitts on him.
I said to Chris Kasarik, I said, Chris, have you ever seen better hands on a young player? And he looked me in the eye and he's like, his hands are advanced. I'm like, yeah, he really is, Damon. He's rocking guys back. He looks great. Fuji Simeon says it's strange having a quarterback not make a fool of himself in front of the media or be a clown when on Pat McAfee, plus no civil lawsuits against Purdy.
None. And there never will be. I mean, I feel really good about saying that.
Yeah, I do too. That's a freaking lock. Silent. Could Garendo be a better Debo, bigger, faster? I don't know what Garendo can be, but he is intriguing. He is big and fast. Joseph Ernberg. BA needs to shut the fuck up and earn his fucking money and play. I love the negativity. Fuji Simeon. Indy Colts would need to pay Richardson money for the Niners. I forget my idea of a trade. The trade is just more of a concept. I think there's a very good chance that Richardson could get cut. And that's when I would really be interested. I'm not interested in taking on Richardson's contract. That's for damn sure. I'm just saying if he's available, I would. He's so athletic that I would. I've got 3 quarterback spots on my roster. I would like my 3rd quarterback spot to be developing the most talented athlete that's maybe ever played the quarterback position. I mean, let's just say this.
Easy. Well,
did you like the trade?
Come on.
Well, this guy's
slow down a little.
But this guy's way bigger than Michael Vick. I hear you. Okay, that's fair. But on this guy, it's not. He's so big, so fast, so intriguing. If you liked Trey Lance, if the Niners liked Trey Lance, they had to be dreaming that Trey Lance would be this 6'4", but fast with a great arm. So that's what this kid is. So if you really did like Trey Lance, you probably should like Anthony Richardson. I'm just saying I would take him as a flyer. We don't need to trade for him and take on his cap. Fuji Simeon, Larry, your bros, beloved Kings chose Fox over Tyrese.
And then traded Fox, so they don't even have him anymore. Do you realize that the Kings could have had Luka Doncic and Tyrese Halliburton on the same team?
Yeah.
They're not good at being a basketball franchise.
They're bad. They're bad. It's my nephew, Daniel's my brother's youngest boy is such a Kings fan. And it's like, I look at him and I think, man, that's going to be a tough life.
It is.
Jerry Schetzel. Maybe Adam Peters was the problem. Maybe overrated. both drafts have been great since his departure. Well, we'll see. Other than Jaden, draft picks haven't hit there. Well, I wouldn't say that either. Mikey Sainristil still had a really good year. Good year.
Yeah, I think that Adam Peters in Washington is a big part of why it is working. Certainly not a guy who's holding it back from working. So it's too early to judge anybody.
Yeah, it's early, but that's a good point. Jonas Ymir Jonas.
Jurgen Flurgen. Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a Johansson? That doesn't look like a Johansson.
Johansson, I believe. Wait, Jonas Ymir Johansson. Great guy who I've met and had beers with. Love from Budapest. Got his teeth fixed in Budapest. Fantastic.
Love from Budapest. Okay, love from Budapest. I finally have my new teeth.
A lot of people have to travel for good dental plans, Larry.
Joseph Ernberg, Damon, you're an awesome father. Reminds me of mine.
Oh, well, thank you, Joseph.
What? Somebody got a hold of Ernberg's account. That's not the Ernberg that I know.
Look at that. You know what would have made that even better if you had left that super chat over on my page. Here's the thing.
I don't know if that is Damon. I'm not sure if if you look up top, it used to have like little monikers. I don't know if they do that anymore. Like some of these people could be donating to your page.
No, that one didn't. No, I know what's coming. I've three supers from today's show have come in my live stream side of the chat, which I'm looking at over here.
But how do you know? Because there's no that little, remember that little moniker that used to be there? It's not there now.
I don't know why, but here's the thing, because you and I have a little bit of a weird setup where it's not like it's coming from my page, because you and I kind of share this.
Oh,
it's why
right.
I can click on things. You have a unique, we have a relationship.
You have what's it called? You have things that you can do that other people that I stream with can't do.
I could go live on the Krug show without Larry anytime I wanted to, and vice versa. You could go live on my channel anytime you wanted to without me. This is where trust matters.
Joseph Ernberg. Oh wait, that was
hated Larry. If Larry and I have a terrible breakup, I can literally go into his account and him to mine. This is like the nuclear option. It's why we'll remain friends forever. We could delete our entire libraries and just screw each other over so badly that it's a good thing we're friends.
Don't musk me. Tommy Huxley. I saw Rickey Henderson break the record live. Tommy, I did as well. I was there for Giants-Yankees, or for A's-Yankees, when Rickey stole third, lifted it up, and said, Lou Brock was the greatest.
Today.
And now I, Rickey Henderson, am the greatest. I was there for that. Great day.
And then Nolan Ryan threw a no-hitter that day as well.
Did he really?
And it kind of like tamped down what Rickey did. And then everyone was just saying, look how classy Nolan is, and look how aggro Rickey is, and blah, blah, blah. And Rickey didn't get nearly the flowers in that moment that he deserved. And it was because of his reaction to his own moment that probably played into that. But we love you, Rickey, and we certainly miss you. And one of the single great baseball players of all time, of my lifetime, of any lifetime. Rickey's the man. If your all-time lineup doesn't have him in left field leading off, it's wrong. Your lineup is freaking wrong. Barry Bonds is going to have to be my DH, because Rickey's starting in right and leading off.
Well, I mean, let's be completely honest about this. I've watched baseball my whole life. I've seen Pete Rose. I never saw Willie Mays, but I saw Willie McCovey. I've seen Barry Bonds, the start to finish, every bit of it. There's no doubt in my mind that the most dominant baseball player I've ever seen in the batter's box was Barry Bonds. No doubt. But if you just say outside the batter's box, the most dominant player I've ever seen, Rickey Henderson against the Blue Jays in the playoffs in 89 or 90, whatever it was. I forget what year it was. totally dominated the series. Got on first, stole second, stole third, scored on a ground ball. I mean, did it twice a game. Unbelievable player, most unstoppable player I think I've ever seen. One of the greatest athletes that's ever played the game. Rickey Henderson. If we valued speed the way we value power, Rickey Henderson would have a greater place in the American consciousness.
And there is, there. I don't know if maybe you described this to me, but I never said it this way. Maybe this was when Rickey died and you and I were talking about him in December. But he, it was brought up that if the game started at first base, there is no greater player of this game from first base and beyond than Rickey Henderson. He is the greatest player from first base to home plate in the
go further back though, because he had a tiny strike zone.
That's right.
And tremendous power.
Yeah.
So he also led the universe in leadoff home runs. So there was no way to pitch him. Like you had to throw it right down the pipe because he literally had the greatest batting eye. So then, and he had the ability to hit it out of the ballpark. So if you came down down Broadway, he could park one on you. If you nibbled, he was on third. I mean, most dominant player in that Blue Jays series. That was the most dominant player I've ever
Not only
seen.
was he the most dominant, he was also the coolest motherfucker of all time. Collar popping, chain dangling, the dude who looked better in a baseball uniform than anybody.
Oh, dude, I don't know if I've ever told you these stories, but one of my good friends was Rickey from Rickey's in San Leandro. And Rickey was said to me in the 90s. He's like, Krug, I love you, man. You're a made man. Don't you ever even bring your wallet when you come to Rickey's. You're never paying for anything here. I said, Rickey, really? He goes, yeah, man. You brought me so much joy and so much entertainment. He's like, you are a made man here. Any fight, bring anybody you want. I'll give you your own table. I'm comping everything. You name it. Okay, so I'm like, wow. So now that became my spot that I would go to for fights. And I went there one year. It was NFL draft day. And just happened to be there was a fight. I don't know who was fighting, but it was a big fight that night. And he goes, hey, Del Rio and Reggie McKenzie are here. You know the Raiders. You want to sit with them? I'm like, well, I don't know if they want me to sit with them, but if they don't mind, I wouldn't mind sitting with them. So all of a sudden, he brings Del Rio to the table. Now Del Rio's standing there. He's like, oh, hey, how you doing, Larry? And he's like, why don't you come back and sit with us? So I went back there and sat at their table. It was me, Del Rio, Reggie McKenzie, a couple other Raider people, and Rickey Henderson walks in, and they brought him to the table, and they sat him right next to me. And I sat there for 8 rounds of some fight at Rickey's next to Rickey Henderson and Jack Del Rio.
Was he wearing a Cosby sweater? Was he in his Cosby sweater phase?
Yes, he was. I think he might have had. I think he might have had a Cosby sweater and leather pants and a beautiful chain on the outside. Chain on the outside. Rickey being Rickey, and the greatest voice. He's got one of the greatest voices of all time. Rickey had one of the greatest voices, and people would come over and shake his hand, and just loved it. I mean, just absolutely loved it. So, I miss Rickey from Rickey's and Ricky Ricardo, and I miss Rickey Henderson.
All Rickeys. We're happy that Rickey Pearsall is with us. We are very happy. And there
Joseph Burns says, goddamn, Larry, you've been on fire this season. We got a couple last ones here on the way out. We got this one, Niner for Life, says, all eyes on me, Tupac. We got this one from Zothamus, danced at my wedding to the Humpty Dance. That is awesome.
Do the hump.
A guy in here is calling me an effing racist. Okay, then we won't read that one.
Probably could have wrapped up without that.
Christopher Shin says Verve Pipe is another band.
With the Verve, not the Verve Pipe. Take the Verve, leave the pipe.
MJ says Larry peaked with Juicy. Yes, I love Juicy. It's a very, very good song. All right.
All right, I'm going to go make sure my 5-year-old's ready for another hour of me being down here. So I got a boogie. Larry, thank you. Great show. Like and subscribe, everybody, on the way out. Eat at Ike's, drink at the Dubliner, go get some barbecue at Pig and a Pickle, Claw Daddy Arcades, all the other good things in between. You're the best.
Peace.